What's up, guys? It's Dominique, aka That Therapist. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the lead clinician and CEO for a group practice known as Yellowbird Counseling. Yellowbird Counseling offers individual, family, couples, group therapy in the states of Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, and Louisiana. So those are the states we offer. We do in person, and we also do telehealth. So, but what does that mean to you? Well, you as the viewer are part of our population because on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, we discuss topics that the general public can relate to and tie it back to how we can all benefit from having a therapist on hand in our life, because there's a very distorted view of what therapy is, meaning that therapy is only for if something's wrong with you or if you're crazy or if you got something bad that's happened. And that's not all that therapy can be used for. So we do our best to educate you on different areas that therapy could be beneficial outside of simply just having a mental illness or having something wrong or having something go wrong for you. And so, or even things that you may not realize are some things that are issues that you might need to address with a therapist, because we, get along to go along so much that a lot of things that maybe we do and engage in that could be harmful, we don't realize that we even needed a therapist for. So that's what we do. So these are all general population topics. So this month is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. So I really wanted to do something a little different than what I've done before. I've already, discussed the deficits that happen in various minority communities as it relates to mental health. We've had minority mental health professionals come on and talk about their own personal experiences with having mental illness and, speaking out about it in order to break the stigma in that regard. We've just done a lot, so I wanted to do something a little different and just, scrolling through social media and seeing what you guys are talking about. It seems like there is a major emphasis on relationships, being in a relationship, not being in a relationship, what it means if you're in a relationship, what it means if you're not in a relationship, how to be in a relationship. So I was like, let me take it a step further, break that apart, and discuss the components of having a relationship that we don't put emphasis on and tie it back to historical reasonings. I say historical loosely. Know that I say it loosely. But different areas in history where that could have come from and become an issue for minority populations. I'm going to more so specifically focus on African American communities this month because that is the community in which I'm a part of. So I'm going to provide this education to my community. If it is applicable to you, please feel free to partake. But the focal point is going to be talking to other African Americans who may not think they need therapy or may not know what they should be addressing in therapy. So just in regards to relationships. So we're gonna start with healthy communication, where the deficit could have possibly come from, how to work through that, different things to do with that. That's what we'll do tonight, and then we're gonna build all the way up to reciprocity and what does healthy reciprocity in a relationship look like, because there's also a lot of misnomers out there in the social media world that we tend to adopt without really knowing why we adopt it or knowing what it means from a healthy standpoint. So that's what we're going to do. So we're starting tonight with, what is healthy communication like? Why might there be a deficit? Well, let me start off first by saying historically, African Americans have had to survive. I'll just say that. They've had to physically survive, mentally survive, emotionally survive, socio and economically survive, because the way that these United States were built were not really built in favor of the African American person in general. So that doesn't mean that all African Americans are this or that. This is just very general. So if this does not apply to you, great. Share it on your timeline for the person that it does apply to. Okay. But so when we didn't have a voice, coming from not having a voice to freely speak, whether that is in society or whether that is in the comfort of our own households, and the freedom to express how we feel emotionally about something, since that wasn't an idea or an ideal that was widely accepted all the way back to, when, and probably even farther back, but is at least as far back as what we can all conceive of, with slavery. There was no talking through things. There wasn't even the freedom to say what you wanted to say. Like, things had to be in code. Messages had to be passed in code, or even if you wanted to learn something, that had to be in private. So with survival communication being the thing that historically was a necessity, those behaviors got passed down and are still being practiced. So we have some survival communication that we are still engaging in, which is not healthy communication. So, and healthy communication, I think people just say loosely, or communication in general, just kind of loosely, without really talking about what does that look like, what does that mean. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm going to break it all the way down to the definition, because y'all know how I do. If I'm going to build, we got to start from the bottom and build. We can't start from here and build. We got to build it all the way up so you can get an entirely full understanding. Okay. So, what even is healthy communication? Like, when you hear that, and please do share this on your timeline, because you have at least one minority individual, at least one African American individual on your timeline who could benefit from this information and could really help the relationships in their life if they choose to see themselves and the areas that they need to work on in this live, and say, hey, that'd be a great area for me to start working on in therapy. So please share. Thank you. And thank you for everybody watching on the replay. But what is healthy communication? So it's the effective, and we're even going to break down the word effective shortly, but it is the effective exchange. And usually when you think of exchange, I feel like a pastor breaking down every single word. But you know what? When I did go to church, them was the sermons I liked. I was like, you broke it all the way down and built it all the way up. And that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? You didn't leave a lot of holes. It all made sense logically. So, but I used to love them kind. All right, so effective, the effective exchange of thoughts and feelings between people. So already there, you might start to notice that, I'm sorry, my allergies always want to act up when I start going live, and I did take a Zyrtec. Crazy, I just go with it. I'm just like, whatever. All right, so if you think about that and just really sit back and think, the effective exchange of thoughts and feelings between people. How often are you experiencing that in your life? Probably not as much as you would like to. I'm not saying it's not happening at all, but I'm sure that it could happen more, as evident by how much people are talking about how much folks don't know how to communicate and how folks emotional intellect is low. Those are things that we're starting to see floating around. So obviously, in general, obviously in general, not specific to you, but obviously in general, that is an area of concern. And so I think that, again, going back to history, first of all, for an African American person to be able to exchange, the idea of exchanging, it was either you will take what I give you, even in the house. It wasn't really an exchange. How many times have you had your parent say, no, it's what I say, do as I say, not as I do, or ask questions. I'm the adult. You're supposed to, just do what I say without question. That's not an exchange. So if you're more so used to that kind of communication, then you view communication as someone being in power, one person being in power and one person being submissive, as opposed to it being an equal exchange between two people. You see it as this person in power does this to say something. This person that is submissive does this. And if you've been that person that's submissive, to talk about thoughts and feelings may not be something you know how to do, feel comfortable doing, know what to say, where to start, if you've never been able to exchange your thoughts and feelings equally with someone else's thoughts and feelings in a conversation, which is how effective communication should look, obviously, because that's the definition. But again, if you haven't had that skill, those behavioral traits were passed down, and it was more survival communication where you listen, someone else speaks, and you receive, but you don't give anything back. You just receive what they say and go on about your business. That is slavery mentality. That is an old, that survival skill kept people alive, back in the day. And it's still, if someone is in a toxic or abusive situation, then yes, they will, that's a survival skill for them now. But that's survival. That's life or death. Like, you're going to be harmed if you don't bite your tongue. And the fact that that's even a worry in a household, that already is a point right there that's toxic. It should be an equal exchange. Yes, there should be respect on both ends. Yes, the child should respect their parent. If their parent's please don't use curse words when you're talking to me. Okay, cool. If that's their thing, that's fair. And if the child says, please don't yell when you're speaking to me, I can hear you when you talk in a normal voice, that's fair. But both parties have to be willing to give and receive, give their thoughts and feelings and receive someone else's thoughts and feelings. So if it's one-sided, which is what historically we have been trained to do, is listen, not speak, not share, not reciprocate, then that could be an issue to learn. So when we say the word effective, this is another piece that got lost in the sauce of survival. Mr. Carter, are you okay? He just, who knows? So effective, that word in and of itself means successful in producing desired or intended results. So oftentimes when a person I won't even say a person. I'll say when you're trying to make a point, we'll say that. Or when someone is trying to make a point to you. It's often not about the equal reciprocation or the equal benefit in that conversation. That, again, it's lopsided. And that's where a lot of us find tension in our relationships, our failure in our relationships, because it's so lopsided like that. It's not like two people trying to produce The end goal is one person trying to gain power over another person in order to get their need met, as opposed to both people trying to get both people's needs met. Whether it's romantic, whether it's friendship, whether it's family, whether it's work, co-worker, whatever, there's a power struggle in the communication that does not allow it to be effective, because with effective communication, the word effective specifically it's successful in producing a desired or intended result. Like, it's a successful exchange of thoughts and feelings. So once we add in the successful piece, now you see where it starts to get like, ooh, how many successful exchanges of thoughts and feelings with another person have you had where it's been productive for both parties? How many? I can imagine that it probably, not that it never has happened, but it probably hasn't happened as much as you would like for it to have happened. Or the other person even probably how much that they would like. Because yes, everybody's intended goal is to get their point across, but not to receive the other person. And when you haven't been historically raised in or reared in a community or environment where the exchange was promoted, the successful exchange was promoted, then it's going to be a skill set that you're going to have to learn. Well, where would I learn that skill set? You're going to have to learn it in therapy. That's where you learn that skill set. You have an unbiased party there to help you see yourself, help you see where other people fall for you in your life, and how you want to manage those relationships and maneuver tough situations. So if you haven't ever had the opportunity to have a successful, or not as much as you would like, a successful exchange of thoughts and feelings that is productive, then yes, you would want to start with therapy so that you can learn how to cultivate that effective communication, which is what that is. So what are some things? Taking turns when speaking and listening. Ooh, that already gets hard, because I can't tell you how many times in conversations I had with my own people that I have stopped talking. And because I'm not going to yell over you. I'm not going to do that. I'll just stop talking and let you say what you want to say. And that's where I shut down and just say, okay, which is also not effective. And this is in my personal life. This is not with clients. I mean, because obviously we can get into how that is where I learned how to effectively communicate in school. That's where I learned how to, because with being a therapist, you have to effectively communicate. So they really drill in down to the nitty gritty. What does that look like? And you have to do that, because otherwise the relationship no longer is therapeutic for the client. And the main goal of therapy is to facilitate a therapeutic relationship for the client. So it's real one-sided, which is supposed to be. It's one-sided in that the therapist cannot expect to get anything other than initiative for treatment from the client. So taking turns speaking and listening is a skill we gotta learn, because can't talk over people, but people will yell over. Like, if I'm trying to make a point that they don't like, and I notice people doing it, and you may have to notice that when I'm making a point that they don't want to look, they start talking real loud over me or cut me off, and I'm just not about to do that. And then I'll just say, well, obviously what I was about to say was going to hit some sort of nerve, because you immediately start talking over me or cut me off. So you have to learn how to speak and listen. And if that is something, speaking or listening or allowing someone else to speak, or listen to you. If you're unable to do that or receive that, that is an area that therapy would be beneficial for. It will teach you. You can learn skills in therapy on how to listen and how to speak and how to let other people speak and how to let you listen, that, because that is going to be a detriment to a relationship. Both people have to be devoted to the exchange. If you only got one person interested in it, which a lot of times, again, because of that power struggle, you got one person interested in the exchange, the other not. And so that we will build on that too, as well, as far as in the coming weeks, that specific situation as far as self awareness and self-acceptance of responsibility. But if someone is saying that they are in a relationship, and I'm not talking about just dating, I'm talking about in a co-worker relationship, there's a certain amount of effective communication skills that you have by proxy of being in that relationship, you have agreed to do. When you're in a friendship, there is a certain amount of effective communication that you have agreed to do, relationship, family, whatever. So there has to be a devotion to that communication in that relationship. If both people aren't devoted, you already, before we even talk about communication, you need to be asking, why are you in that relationship as the person who is devoted in a relationship with someone who's not devoted? Any relationship. Why are you engaging a relationship where only you're devoted to it? So that's another conversation that we'll have at a later time. But both people, as it relates to effective communication, have to be devoted to the exchange. Here's a tough one. Both, not one. Listen. Both people are aware of how they are acting during the conversation. Like this already, I haven't even gotten halfway through my notes, and already this seems foreign. Does it not? And I know in and of myself, like, yes, this is the right way, but actually, realistically, how often am, like, outside of therapy have I had effective communication exchanges? Not much. Let me so that this is the successful in producing a desired result. So the successful in producing a desired result exchange of thoughts and feelings between people. That's effective communication. What does it look like? It looks like taking turns talking and listening. It looks like both people being devoted to the exchange. It looks like both people are aware of their behavior during the conversation. Whew! That is very mature. That's very mature. And I'm telling you, even at my age, it's not a lot of people I know that can engage and have all of those components in an exchange, especially if it's a disagreement. Like, this is like, therapy will teach you how to effectively communicate through a disagreement. Can you see how hard these things would be to do in a disagreement? Hard, because you got emotions to manage in that too. So that is another area. Therapy will teach you how to manage your emotions and communicate effectively in the midst of a disagreement, and teach you how to do personally for yourself what steps you need to take to go through all of these components. So I mentioned earlier, of course, tying this back to Minority Mental Health Month, what specifically for minority population. more specifically African American population, might effective communication not be the most prevalent? Well, there are racial stereotypes, okay, of having to be or present a certain way. And a lot of times that comes off as being, even listen to the rap songs. And I love them. I love a good trap rap song. Okay? Love it. Love Cardi B, love all that. But when you listen to what they're promoting in their music, it's not effective communication. It's, listen, I'm going to leave you on red. Ha ha. That I got power over you. I'm not thirsty. I'm not going to come after you. I'm not going to text quick. I'm not going to text first. It's all promoting how cool it is to be in this type of communication situation instead of this kind of communication situation. There's a power dynamic that when you add that in, you cannot have effective communication and a power struggle. You can't have that because they're direct opposites of each other. So, but that's what it's promoting. So those stereotypes are being promoted. Expectations, like we were talking about for Men's Health Month. It's an expectation for a man to just be this rock and not emote, and he's just supposed to endure and take it on and survive and make it work. That's toxic. And having expectations like that, being the strong Black woman or strong Black man, meaning, I don't share my emotions. I don't open up. You can share your emotions and I shut you down by telling you how much your emotions don't matter or why they shouldn't matter. And that is not effective communication. And if you want successful relationships, that power struggle, that survival communication is not going to work. It's going to rip up your relationships every time. Every type of relationship, it's going to be a strain on it. And then just the foreign concept of exchanging thoughts and feelings leaves a lot to be open to misunderstanding and assumptions, because people shut down and stop communicating. They don't communicate fully. They don't allow themselves to listen to someone else fully. Like, that is going to cause a major detriment in your ability to communicate effectively. Some other things that would contribute and be a part of and help aid in healthy communication is being able to make eye contact and utilize an appropriate body language. So making eye contact with someone when they're talking to you, that a lot of people don't think they should have to do that. In a lot of cultures, more specifically minority cultures, it can be seen as disrespectful. So there's that. But looking someone in the eyes when they're communicating with you is a part of healthy communication. Body language. So like if somebody's talking to you and you're sitting like this and they're in front of you and this how you looking, that is not going to be good. Positive body language to engage in a successful production of thoughts and feelings. Okay, it's not going to be like that because their body language is already closed off, or like this, or tapping your foot. That is not effective communication body language. That is, I'm not devoted to this body language. I don't want to hear what you got to say body language. So I have a lot of clients who have told me how it's hard for them to stay focused. So that is during a conversation. So that is an area that we work on specific to their needs, how to stay focused, which is a part of healthy communication, effective communication. How to listen. How to listen is a skill that oftentimes I have to work on with clients in therapy. How to own what's yours. We're going to talk more about that next week. How to own what's yours. Being accountable for self. How to compromise. That's hard too. That's a skill that we have to often work on a lot in couples therapy. How and when to take time out. That is also a skill that we have to work on in individual and couples therapy, but more specifically, how to compromise and how to take time out in a healthy and effective way are goals that I have had to, treatment goals I've had to set with some of my clients. Also, these are some emotions that you need to possess in healthy and effective communication. You need to possess trust, respect, understanding, empathy, which is there's a major lack of people's ability to empathize with other people, and have the attitude of resolution. So if you're missing trust, respect, understanding, empathy, or resolution, it's going to make it hard for effective communication to be cultivated in that particular relationship, whether it's on one person's side or on both people's side. Because remember, with effective communication, both people have to be devoted. So even if you're doing all this, if the other person's not, relationships that you try to fix alone stay broken. And so that's just the long and short of it. And so here are some things you have to be willing to do, and may need a therapist to help you get to the point of being willing to do these things. You have to be willing to be open, honest, and vulnerable. Okay. Vulnerability, that word just hangs people up sometimes. But again, what does that specifically look like for you can be hashed out in a therapy session. All right. Face to face, not text messages. People be in their whole relationships over text, man. I'm a millennial, so I have the privilege of knowing what things were like before text and what things are like after text. So, because I've had a chance to evolve with mobile communication. So, I'm just like, man, we're having these whole serious ass conversations over text. That is not effective and is gonna lead to trouble. But it's what we do. So we have to figure out why we do it. Why do we engage in that? Why is it easier for us? Why do we prefer that over face-to-face communication? Why is that? You want to know for you, why is that? Effective communication is non-judgmental. So you have to be willing to put yourself in a place of not judging, understanding, not winning. Again, you can't have effective communication if there is a power struggle. It can't be about winning and losing. It has to be about understanding, putting both parties on equal playing field and understanding each other, what each other's point is, accepting it, and finding compromise, okay? Can't make assumptions with effective communication. And it has to be deliberate, meaning it was thought out. There was some thought put behind the discussion. It's not just impulsive, like, well, I'm just going to text her and say, blah, 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 blah. That's not. So me, just for self-disclosure, a lot of what I worked on in therapy most recently was my reactivity time. And I have gotten way better with it. So I usually sleep on something before I bring it to someone's attention. And sometimes I even might wait and see if it's even a pattern, because I want to know if it's me. I don't want to react too quickly. I want to have evidence to back what I'm going to say. I want to have deliberate communication with this person when I tell them about themselves. Again, and that cannot be the goal. The goal can't be, I'm going to tell her about herself. The goal has to be, let me understand and receive understanding. But let me tell you, I ain't perfect either. Okay, I'm not perfect. But I know in order to effectively communicate in relationships that I want to maintain, then I have to sleep on it, think on it, make sure that I'm saying what I really want to say, regardless of if I'm upset or not. Okay. But again, we get into that survival communication of being passive aggressive. Passive aggressive, giving the silent treatment, using aggressive speech, like yelling. I'm not even talking about cussing, because cussing can be used aggressively, but yeah, cussing aggressively, we'll say that. Sweeping things, brushing things under the rug, which is a lot of what couples are doing, and that's why they got to come see me, is because they want to sweep it under the rug and not worry about it. And they oftentimes come from families like that, and if they're Black, then they come from families like that, because sweeping things under the rug has been a survival communication that we have passed down. Sweeping things under the rug, we don't talk about it, we don't acknowledge it. If we don't, that means it's not there, which is just not true. So brushing things under the rug, using aggressive speech, and being passive aggressive. Those are survival communication skills and not effective communication skills. Effective communication skills, you're processing your feelings first before you speak. You are deliberate about proper timing. Using I statements, assuming responsibility. That is something that I learned early on in school. Again, using I statements to assume responsibility for your portion or your feelings or your thoughts. It's not you made me. It's I feel as though you, or I think that you, or I see that you. You have to assume that responsibility. Again, knowing how to hear and listen, compromise and the common goal being resolution. Of course, setting boundaries. Y'all know I'm going to talk about setting boundaries all the time. And how does that look? And I'll do it in different ways, so you have different ways to receive it. And not engaging in things like, again, the silent treatment, bringing up past mistakes, yelling and screaming, walking away, using sarcasm or put downs. I'm bad at sarcasm. I can be sarcastic. I just have dry humor, but I got to be mindful of that when I'm having a relationship, a conversation with someone I care about, and it's a sensitive conversation. And disrespectful nonverbal behavior, like I was saying, like this, or being on your phone while someone's talking to you about something or whatever. Like that's disrespectful nonverbal communication. It communicates that you don't care. So if you can, in this live, just even one of these points, if you find that you have struggled in at least one of them, I would encourage you to call either us or another therapy practice to get with a therapist so you can start learning those skills. And if you can, get in the session this week and then before next Thursday, and then we can. I mean, that's probably not the most realistic, but you can take notes, take with you to work on therapy, and things that would be helpful for you, and maybe deficits. If you are unwilling to acknowledge that you have an issue in any of these areas, then you probably do. Okay. And so you're going to need to talk to the therapist and say, I was listening to this live and this girl was talking about effective communication and saying, if I don't do this and I don't do that, and it's not effective communication, but I don't believe that. And the therapist will help you. That's all you got to say. Just tell them you don't believe what I was saying, and they'll help you. They'll help you. Okay. But I promise you'll be right where you need to be. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Questions, comments, or concerns? All right. Well, again, at 2, you're going to want to get on the newsletter so you can know when we do the $100 Cash App giveaway. Only the people that are in the newsletter are only the people that are in our text community know about that. And so then they know when to not phone in. They know which lives to tune into and listen to and do the thing so that they can win. So you can go to yellowbirdcounseling.com in order to subscribe. And then if you I'll put the text number up there for different things. It's the same number, it's just a different word you would text for different stuff. But I'll let the text community know that type of stuff as well. But yes, this month we're going to be focusing on deficits in specific areas of relationship that the minority community, more specifically for me, because I'm African American, the African American community has seen detriments in, and that has majorly impacted our mental health. So survival and survival communication and power, unequal power struggle communication has been a thing that has just kind of been accepted and passed down. And so these are the beginnings of how things you would want to take a look at to see if you need to do some work on in order to put yourself in a position to be a healthy communicator. So next week, we're going to talk about self-accountability. Ooh, I can't wait. So you're going to want to be there at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to talk about what does that consist of? What does that look like? Why might that be an issue? And we'll continue there next week. But I'll see y'all. Please share this live. And thanks for viewing.